Good morning, everyone. This is Brian Wagner, Chief Architect of Prodigio RTS. Welcome to today's chat where we're going to talk about some aspects of Prodigio's Chart Trader Pro and how you can use it to kind of manage risk on positions. There's a couple little known features about Prodigio's charting package that we're going to cover today. And I'm also going to talk about how we're working in the background on expanding some of these features. So a lot of the things that we're working on, hopefully I'll give you some insight as to what those things are. But to get started, I'd just like to say thanks everyone for joining me today. The Prodigio RTS trading platform is a robotic automation trade-based platform available exclusively by Thinkorswim and TD Ameritrade. In order to get Prodigio, please request activation by sending an email into support@thinkorswim.com with the subject line Prodigio activation. Make sure you include your username and your account number, and those guys will get you set up right away. And once you have access, there will be a button on your Thinkorswim platform, and you click that button and it launches us and you're good to go. Any questions, please send them into prodigio@thinkorswim.com. As always, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/wizardlab. We announce whenever we have these chats, which is every week here Wednesday, 11 o'clock Central, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Usually it's myself, sometimes we have guest speakers, and we talk about a variety of things such as strategy, aspects of trade automation, and how you can use Prodigio and its feature Wizard Lab in order to take advantage of that. Also, join us on the web, www.prodigiorts.net. All of these video chats are archived, and you can also jump in on the forum and ask questions and try to keep up to date. You can leave comments on the blog entries, and usually if I develop a strategy or if someone develops a strategy, we post a blog entry and we'll post the actual strategy that you can import into the Wizard Lab. I have one more comment out there I have to get back to. I just saw that today actually. But usually I try to check this and I try to reply to every question that comes up there. So to get started, Prodigio. It has a lot of features. The goal of Prodigio, and especially if this is your first time looking at Prodigio, and for many of you it's not. A lot of you have seen Prodigio before, have an idea of what it's capable of doing, or have experimented with it, etc. The main idea is that Prodigio is an automation platform. The emphasis and the goal is on building tools that allow you to perform these kind of macro level functions. The platform is free as long as you're a funded Thinkorswim account holder. So all you have to do is request activation. We're growing the platform, so that's kind of why you have to request activation for it for now. But especially some of the things that we're working on lately are really going to expand it. We have a kind of an internal build that's going to be finished within the next month, in the next 2 weeks. No official release date on that yet, but this features a number of improvements to scanning systems and some really powerful things that we'll probably showcase in a little while. But the goal is on trading automation, and primarily the emphasis on Prodigio is on Wizard Lab. Wizard Lab, this is really the hook into the platform if you want to learn more about it, is that Wizard Lab is a trade strategy generation tool. And what it allows you to do is create, using simple drag and drop operations, strategies based on the kind of technical analysis and logic that you would perform doing technical-based trading, chart-based trading, etc., by kind of dragging and dropping things together. And all you do is you create this schematic of what you want your strategy to do on the canvas, and then you can run this schematic either in backtest or in real-time trading. Now we have a backtesting engine, and there's a 4-step process that we're not really going to get into today with Wizard Lab. But you create rules. Rule is something that generates a signal. You take your collection of rules, and this is a little, almost think of it as a library of rules that you can build for yourself. You take these rules and you combine those together into a strategy. Right? So here's an example of a strategy. Strategy just says, what should I do with those signals? Do I want to trade them? Do I want to put trailing stops on positions when I find signals, etc.? You can define that here. And there's a lot of parameters, but it's very basic. It's just kind of left to right, top to bottom fill out of your strategy. Save that. There's a back testing engine. The back test will show you results, etc. I didn't get any results over this time. But there's various things, and you can kind of chart your progress. And finally, you can deploy the strategy, and this is the most interesting part. It's also the part that we're kind of expanding on right now. There are two modes of deployment. The first is RTS trading. That's the robotic trading. And let's see if this is a paper money account, which I just kind of leave open just to demonstrate things about the system. And this is an example of some very basic strategies. I can see I've got some EMA crossovers. Here's a manual position that got put on. The system is designed to manage risk. So in other words, I mentioned the focus is on the trading automation. So we put a lot of time and effort into this macro management of multiple positions. And the main idea that we originally had kind of when designing this, and this was really from the inception of the project, was that we wanted to be able to give to traders a system where they're managing a lot of positions. And we want it to be very simple to manage lots of positions. Right? So here's an example. When I want to manage, how many do I have? Do I have usually the limit is 15. That was kind of our benchmark for what would be a nice manageable number of positions. So see, I've got 13 different positions open here. And the idea was, given that if you want to kind of manage a single position, you got to do a lot of work. You've got to put, say, limit orders in to get into the position. Sometimes you want to bracket order into the position. Sometimes you want to blast all this kind of stuff. And then you have to manage the positions, right? So you have to think about, if I am long at Apple, on this open price here was 372.44. I want to think, well, maybe I want to protect this position. It's long, right? So I could protect it with a trailing stop or a stop order. Maybe put a stop at 365, whatever. But I also might want to bracket it in order to take profits off the table, move money around, etc. But at the same time, if something really goes wrong on a position, I don't want to have to wait for me to realize that something's going wrong. I want the system to automatically protect me based on my parameters. So the whole idea was that we created this system whose goal was to manage large buckets of positions. And it's very quick and easy to kind of manage this. Now this is just a paper money account, right? So I can say, take my losing positions, right? Let's say I have these two big losing positions on this paper money. And all I did there actually was I control clicked, but you could do this one by one. We created a set of tools so that you just are presented in almost a matrix view your positions, and then you get out, based on just a couple clicks. We had this metric of reducing the amount of clicks, and that's kind of, if you talk about engineering and things like that, it's kind of silly to say that. However, there's a lot of merit. If you can do something in the least amount of actions as possible, the system becomes more usable. And that was our focus when we did this. So there's a suite of macro functions. For example, if I want to clear out all of my losing positions, we have a button, Close LP. And if I hover over, you can see the tooltip there. It says close. That's close long positions, close short positions, close positive, close negative. If I hit close negative positions, what happens is it reduces my portfolio so that any position which had a negative open P&L, that's closed now. And you can see this column, this is all green now because these are my profitable positions. So by clicking that button, it immediately reacted and closed out all those negative positions, and now I've only got my long positions remaining. We also thought that market direction is a very important factor. And to be honest with you, I've been developing all day. I haven't really looked at it. Looks like it's a little bit choppy, just looking at my market indices. A little bit choppy on the day. So sometimes it's very obvious. The day is going to be an up day, the day is going to be a down day. There's really bad economic news lately, and then you have a down day, right? But then what happened, right? Past couple days we've had kind of a bounce back, right? Things went down a little bit too far. I could even look at any symbol. I'll just pull up say SPX here on a chart, right? And if I go back far enough on the dailies, here during this beginning of August, end of July, this is when we kind of had, the bad news and things went down. But of course you have these reverberations in the market, right? And that's naturally a phenomenon of what happens in the market when, you have bulls and bears and buyers and sellers, and you have people of different, basically different goals, for their money management. They want to invest in gold, or they want to move into liquid assets, or they want to, put money in securities, or, whatever they are. Everybody has different individual goals based on what I like to refer to as the time value of money. What may be a good opportunity for one person may not be the same opportunity for another, and vice versa. So obviously, in the past couple days we had this pullback, right? Because we had some more bad news, but the news doesn't, it drives the market, but if something is worth something, right? Just because something says they don't like it doesn't change the intrinsic value of something, right? So you have these movements. And the goal is, if you knew that, let's say on September the 26th, the day would be a very bullish day, you might want to go to your portfolio, close out all your short positions, right? Now these are all, let's see, these are all long positions, right? So I can push this button. Nothing's going to happen. I didn't have any short positions, but I could close all the long positions, to the converse. And we basically have these kind of management tools available. So that's the whole premise behind what the Prodigio platform is, and that is the nature of the tools that we're developing. This is not just a trading platform that you can send orders in and manage orders. It's more of a position-based management. It's kind of at a higher level of thinking than that. And of course, it's built on top of the Thinkorswim infrastructure. And so what I want to talk about today is how you can kind of take advantage of this system. And it's important that you know that Prodigio, it manages positions. Actually, what I can do here is I can demonstrate, I can turn on robotic trading, and I had a lot of strategies deployed already. They were running in the background, and these strategies, you have to bear in mind, this is kind of a demonstration of the platform. They're very simple. They're kind of looking for, say, 5-second crossovers on moving averages. Really basic stuff. But what happened was, as soon as I turned that on, you can see it found all these new trades. See ABT, AMZN. These ones kind of just opened. It found those crossovers, and it automatically got into the position based on the parameters I set in the strategy builder. And you can manage this however you want. You can set them in as market orders, as limit orders. Oh, and here's a little tip, actually, especially if you've been kind of long-term user of this system. We have found, as we have developed and designed this platform, we have found a remarkable degree of the Thinkorswim infrastructure to be able to give you favorable market order fills. Right? Now think about this for a second. A lot of us have been in this game for quite a while, and a lot of us know the difference between a market order and a limit order. And we all know that, especially if you look at, say, the NYSE still has human specialists, right? And they're guys, on the exchange that are taking orders, and they're managing the orders, and they're mapping the fills, and they're managing their order books, etc. Now we also know that there's kind of this new wave of the future, and the NASDAQ handles its books. I believe it's fully automated. I could be wrong. I mean, there's always exceptions, especially in an automated system. There's always, in some level, especially on an exchange as big as the NASDAQ, there's always going to be guys in there that are doing things and monitoring, making sure everything is going well. But it used to be more in the past that market orders, especially if you just got into this in, say, the 90s or the 2000s decade, when you would send market orders into a lot of these trading platforms, the specialist, especially on the NYSE, would really take advantage of that market order, and they would give you an unfavorable fill. And what would happen on that is that what would happen is you'd send that order in, and let's say the spread, right? So I've got my order management set to Dell right now, right? And here's the bid and the ask, right? 1525, 1526. Let's say the spread was a bit looser or whatever, and I wanted to buy this stock, and I sent the market order in. You would get fills, at, say, you bought it at $15.30. That would be 4 cents above the ask. And you'd be thinking to yourself, wow, the market wasn't even trading there. Why did I get filled 4 cents above the offer? That was because of slippage that was built into the system, and then the specialist would argue, well, they order match there, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, there's standards that make sure that you can't get completely screwed. Like the specialist can't fill you at $20. There's standards in there. But, I mean, that hurts when you're trying to, make, say, a 10-cent profit, and you already lost 4 cents of that profit. My point is that we have found that the way that thinkorswim has its smart order routing, they do an exceptional job on the fills, even with market orders. And I don't know if this is the case, but it seems like using their best order routing algorithms, it seems like they are taking out a lot of that uncertainty, and it also seems like the markets are getting more efficient, right? So some of these macro functions, especially these buttons over here, are kind of mapped to sending market orders. The nice thing about a market order is it gets you out fast, but they're working even better than they ever have in the past. So that's a little tip. Don't be so afraid of market orders as maybe you were even just 5 or 6 years ago, because they've definitely gotten better. So I have a lot of positions on, right? And Prodigio, what it's capable of doing, if I go into these settings here, I'm going to show you, it's important to understand this when I go into the charts so that you can see how this lines up. I go over into risk settings, and this panel right here is macro management on the account, which allows you to, for example, set up fail-safes for yourself and also set limits and thresholds. Right? And so I want to cover this really quickly just so you're aware of what the system can do for you automatically. Any position that's being managed by Prodigio, right? So you request activation, you log in, and now Prodigio, it is managing these positions. You can go into your settings, right? And any one of these automated positions, right? Anything that you opened using Prodigio automation, you can set this up. So if you have a scan running and your scan is looking for extreme movements in a Bollinger Band, right? So you have a strategy, and we kind of covered some of these in prior weeks. You're looking for a strategy where you see it's going to buy here, down at the bottom end of a Bollinger Band, or it's going to buy here, something like that. You can build into the system fail-safes that monitor the aggregation of positions. So inside here, I'll start with the drawdown settings. A drawdown is a concept that applies to your account, right? And a lot of people know what drawdowns are, especially if you've used trading systems before, automated trading systems before, etc. The drawdowns, Prodigio has a couple different kinds of drawdowns. We differentiate between account soft drawdown and account hard drawdown. The difference between the two is that this is an automation-based trading platform, right? So the emphasis is on not really getting into the positions manually, but setting up a system so that it does this faster than you could do by hand. Now you can still do it manually, but if I take a look at this account drawdown, the motivation is based on this aggregation type of position management. And so I've got soft and hard drawdown. The difference between those two is that a soft drawdown, it's kind of like turning the system half off. So in other words, this is automatically scanning for these trade conditions, and based on my parameters, it's going to get into long positions, get into short positions. If you have an account drawdown, this is day by day, of this percentage, and it kind of gives you an example. So for example, if you're trading, and if the account on this paper money trading account, if it loses $1,000 on the day, and you can of course tweak this, right? So you could say, okay, well if it loses $250 on the day, that's 0.25% on this account. It's going to enter into what's called soft drawdown. And the system is going to continue managing the positions, but it will not put new automated positions on. It disables the part of the platform that puts on new positions. So for example, what I had done before, and I'm going to cancel this, I had enabled RTS trading. that allows the system to put on new managed positions. So I can disable this, and the system is still managing those positions, but it's not putting any new positions on based on my scanning. That's what this soft drawdown controls. It like automatically disables this from putting new positions on. And so that's opposed to the hard drawdown, which the hard drawdown is, it's an absolute fail-safe. If the hard drawdown gets hit, it's going to liquidate at market the positions to get out of the position. And usually this never happens, but it's a fail-safe, and you can enable and disable this, that let's say you put down a hard fail-safe here. If the system loses this amount, it'll just liquidate the positions automatically. So think of these as safety nets. You have these safety nets built into the account, and you also have one built into a position. So you have this per position drawdown as well, which allows you to govern the profit and losses by position. In other words, if an individual position goes down by 1.25%, right, that's a good one to have in there, it would liquidate that position. In addition to drawdowns, you can limit the amount of allocation in terms of buying power. So for example, you can say effective buying power, that's the amount of buying power that the system is going to use for robotic trading. You can set an upper bound here by a dollar amount, and so you can really toggle this up and down, and this number is quite simply going to just be an upper bound for the amount that it's going to be limiting. You can also specify a per trade allocation, which is going to limit for every individual trade that the system puts on, you can restrict how the system puts the buying power into that position. So I've got RTS 15 enabled right now. What that does is when the system decides now it's time to get into Apple, for example, it says take the amount of buying power that I have in the account and divide that by 15. Whatever that is, it's going to get into that many shares of the position. And what's important is that you can change these parameters. You can say, well, if I have $140,000 of buying power, for every position, maybe I want to put 10% of that into the position. If I check the radio button here, it's going to use this setting in order to determine how many shares to buy of every individual position. You can fix it by dollar amount. So if I want to say, okay, put $3,000 of capital, of buying power into every position, you can do it that way. Or you can fix the share size, 100 shares, 200 shares, 150, etc. You've also got something called share rounding precision. We've been finding that the odd lots fill very favorably. We used to encourage people to trade in round lots. A round lot is, say, 100 shares, 200 shares, 300 shares. It's an order that's very easy to fill on the books, but with the increase in volume on trading, we found that changing this to ones is also a very viable option to do. You could also specify upper bounds for the max number of trades on the day. These are daily based, day-to-day settings. So for example, if I say the max number of positions is 10, it will only trade the first 10 signals that the system finds from robotic trading. You can also specify the max number of shares per trade. That's kind of an upper bound. So for example, if I said 10%, but it wanted to buy a $1 stock, that might be 1,400 shares on that stock. So I can put a bound on that to 500 shares. You can also say the number of times the system's allowed to trade a symbol per day. This is one that's very important, which some people get tripped up on sometimes. If you set this to 3, I was using the example of Apple before, it's only going to trade Apple 3 times that day, and any signal, and this is for entering into positions, any signal it gets after the third one it's going to ignore. And we built this in because you might create these scalping of type of strategies, which the system's really good with these kind of scalping type strategies. You might not want the system to go haywire on a stock that, let's say you're trying to scalp an ETF. So you create an ETF scalp strategy, and you want to get in and out and in and out and in and out. But you reason to yourself, well, I don't want it to trade more than 20 times that day. Because maybe I want to have a fail safe for something, etc., you can put that fail safe right in here. Finally, there's trade filters just based on price and volume. You could specify, I don't want to trade anything below $3 and above $100, etc. You could do the same thing by the daily volume. So that's a bit about the portfolio and the risk settings, right? So that's an overview of the trading automation in the system. Let's get into the charting. Prodigio Chart Trader Pro has several features in order to do position and trade management built right into the charting package. I also mentioned I'm going to allude to some of the things that we're working on. Right now our focus is on a suite of scanning tools, right? So things such as dynamic lists and broad market scans, and narrowing down the search space of you have say tens of thousands of symbols that you want to scan, and you want to filter that down to a list of say 1,000 or 100, etc. We're working on those tools right now. Those tools in the future will be combined with the charting, right? And so we actually have this build that we started working on, which ties in a lot of the Wizard Lab features directly into the charts themselves. So it's very important, to have an understanding of what the charting intends to do. Right? So now that you understand a bit about the portfolio and understand that our goal is on scanning, it's on managing large number of positions, it's on seamlessly integrating everything to reduce the amount of work that you need to do so you can manage lots of things at the same time. Let's talk about the charts. The Chart Trader Pro is available as a tab. You could also tab this off. There's a button over here called New Chart, and when I click that, that's just going to give me another tab. I can kind of do this for as many charts as I want. If you ever want to split this out, right, go into Layout, go into Select Layout, and select Advanced Layout. That actually allows me to drag out a chart. And what I did, I've only got one monitor to show you guys. Let me put in a symbol in here. You can kind of create your multi-monitor layouts using this just by splitting the charts out. But just be aware that that's there. And let's focus on the features of these individual charts. First thing to know about charting, if I double-click any of these tabs, right, it kind of expands the whole window. Right now, the chart only has the name of it. Right, that's actually a good question. Can you name the chart tabs? Right now, it's got the name of it. So when I type that in, it's going to just put this right here. Another project that we're going to get into very soon, we're actually going to give you a lot more control over the layout. You can basically put anything wherever you want it, right? But we're working on building more clonability into the system. Right? That's a really good way to put it, more clonability. So, more instances of trade optics, etc. And the reason why we're doing that is because that ties in with the scan system, which I think a lot of you guys are really going to be blown away when you see what we are capable of doing with it. This scanning system really lends itself to having multiple instances. This is, when we release this, it's going to have multiple instances. But we're really working on a system that lets you kind of clone as many things as you want, put them wherever you want. So that's going to be pretty cool. But right now, when you make a chart, the name of it's right there. And so if I double-click any of these, it kind of expands and collapses it to the whole screen, right? So right here, I'm looking at, so right now it's looking at AMZN. The first thing that you should notice is that this Chart Trader Pro, it's linked to the portfolio. All right, so if I click on AXP to Dell to Guild, etc., here's Apple, that automatically changes the chart on the Chart Trader Pro. This thing is kind of linked in to the portfolio. The new charts are not, right? So if you want to create your own setup, just create them by creating new chart instances and put these on your multi-monitor setouts. I recommend leaving Chart Trader Pro in with the other ones because it's tied in with the portfolio. You can always do things. We actually give suggestions for layouts. And so got order management at the bottom. I've got Chart Trader Pro and I've got portfolio here, and this looks better on a much bigger monitor. I'm forced to use a low resolution for the broadcast, unfortunately. But you can always do things like this. You can split the chart so that you're managing your positions, and then you see how nicely integrated this is. I can just arrow up, arrow down, right? I actually have to click on it. And this is kind of changing the chart as I look at different positions. So let's put this back. All right, so I just drag that out. I'm going to split this back down. And let's take another look at the Chart Trader Pro here. So Chart Trader Pro has a toolbar at the top, and it also has this little widget over here on the side. And I want to make sure you guys know that these tabs are here, just in case you're not aware. This tab over here allows you to set settings for the chart. Right? So sometimes if you want to kind of hide things, you can check and uncheck this. And so here's volume, which is a great example. I can show or hide volume, and that depends on what I'm doing with the chart. You usually want to have it on, but it depends. Maybe I don't want to see the lower studies. I can hide them, etc. Hide all, show all, etc. You've got one for the top, which takes away this top toolbar. So it depends on how you want to look at this. You can expand or collapse using these tabs, which have the features. These over here, I'm not going to get into too much because these are really just chart settings. They're specific settings to manage the way the chart looks and it feels, and you can change these things. You can change the colors of things, etc. You can change the way the crosshairs look, the way the y-axis presents its range data, etc. So that's there, and I want you to be aware of that. But what's more important is how you can use this for trading. Okay, so let's start by talking about how this is tied into the portfolio. Now, Chart Trader Pro, if there is a position open in your portfolio on the symbol, it's going to mark the chart with that information. So now I'm looking at a Bollinger Band study here. I'm going to take that off and also just talk about the studies really quickly in a little while too. But you see right here, you see this dashed line. This is my average fill on my position. It says my average fill was for 26 shares at $372.44. This ties in directly with your portfolio, and as I change positions, that average fill is going to change on my chart as well. So it gives you a baseline value of what you got in at, and that's important. Right, so I switched over to ABT, and I'm zooming in with my mouse wheel. These buttons are available down here as well, zoom in, zoom out, and zoom reset. So let me zoom in again really quick. It gives you a baseline so that you know where the position got in. And that's very important because you can use this as a visual baseline in order to manage orders against that position. And so I'm going to start doing that. The top toolbar right here has a micro visual order entry system. And what I'm able to do here is I'm able to set this up. Now the top line just talks about which of the the symbol and the interval, right? You can look at minute, daily, etc. This is all kind of standard, but I can change the duration. I can look at 15-minute charts, etc. Historical mode, if you're curious about that, when you run Wizard Lab backtesting, if you want to view a position and you click the button in the backtest, and while I'm talking, let me just run something, and let me pick a strategy that's definitely going to trade something. I think the CCI was doing some trading. And so I'll just, I'll run that in the background as I'm talking. That's running a backtest on this strategy that we had I forget if we talked about this in a prior chat or whatever. But while that's running, right? Okay, so here I got my results set actually. If I click this chart button, I click that, that's going to load this into Chart Trader Pro, and now it's in historical mode. Historical mode kind of lets you look back in time beyond the current time frame so that you can see where the trades happened over time. It's also not going to kind of drag your chart to the right, which I guess doesn't happen if it's if you're scrolled back anyway. But what this does is it toggles between the two modes. So if I want to turn this back into a non-historical chart, and this is important if you're looking at things that happen in the far past, I can uncheck this, and that kind of, it cleans up all the backtest overlays, and it just kind of puts you back according to, Microsoft at the current time, right? So, here looks like, yeah, I'm actually in position on Microsoft right now on this paper money account, so it kind of shows me, oh, you've got this average fill here. Right, so let's go back to our Apple trade. Right, and actually this one got into position a while ago. So instead of looking at that, because it's kind of off the chart, let's look at this ABT one again. That's the one I was looking at. So what I can do here, you've also got studies, drawings, and type, which I'll allude to, but these are pretty standard. You have a feature called auto send mode, and this is the most important aspect to managing positions on the chart. When you check the auto send mode, it asks you to verify, and if you say yes, the cursor turns green. And what this means is that your cursor is hot, right? Your cursor is ready to start sending orders. Right, so you want to be careful here because the next click I make is going to send an order. That's why it warns you. It says, okay, auto send mode is being enabled. When auto send mode is enabled, you have order entry parameters on this line. And so what you can do is you say, okay, I want to buy or sell the stock. Now this is a long position, and what I want to do is I want to put management orders, right? So I want to sell, right? I'm going to want to sell, right, a certain number of shares, right? And so this is 189. So why don't I just put this at 189? I want to sell 189 shares of ABT, and I can set up the parameters of the order that I want inside of here. So, for example, let's say I want to put a stop order on here. Right? So this is going to be a sell stop. Right? If I click right here, what that does is this put a stop order out there, and this is a working stop order at the visual location of where my cursor was when I clicked it. That's why you have a double crosshair, because both of these values matter. Well, maybe not so much the left to right value, but the up and down value matters a lot. And so you see how my cursor, when I scroll this up and down, you see how that marker on the right, it tells me the penny price. That's very important because that's going to tell me what actual price the order is when I send the order. And so what I did was I protected this position with a stop order. Now I could have done this in multiple ways. I could have set up my Wizard Lab strategy to automatically place this stop order. In that case, you would have seen the stop order here placed on the chart already. Or you can set up the system so that when it trades, it gets into the position, and you can manually use Chart Trader Pro to simply add orders. And so I want to actually show you what else you can do with this. Let's say I want to put target orders here. Right? If I change this to limit, right? If I do a sell order, it's going to be a limit order, and it's going to say, I want to sell at this price or greater. Well, unfortunately, this bar is moving down. I don't want this to hit my stop. So actually what I can do is I can uncheck auto send, right? Make sure your cursor goes back to white. I want to move this down. So you see how all I did was I just dragged that order? That kind of lets me put it wherever I want, and it makes it that easy to change the order. You don't have to worry about kind of worrying with price spinners or the numbers of the order. This just makes it easier. Like I mentioned prior to the chat, we're kind of we're visually oriented creatures, really. We can process a lot more information visually than we can with, say, just a spreadsheet. Right now, yeah, you can do statistical analysis, but there's a lot of merit to just eyeing something up. And you can actually do a lot. Our brains are kind of hardwired to be able to do this. Our brains are hardwired to make judgments. This is an evolutionary thing. We can judge distance. We can judge the quality of something. If it's art or if it's music, We can judge if we like it or we don't like it. You know, our brains are kind of hardwired to take in a lot of sensory information and process it very rapidly. That's why chart-driven technical analysis is so valuable, because a lot of people, you know, simply make a living by just doing visually oriented technical analysis. And from my experience, what a lot of even day traders will do is they'll look at the chart studies and they'll have a fundamental understanding. They'll know what an ATR is, you know, they'll know what RSI means. But they'll look at a chart and they'll make judgments. And you do this every time you look at a chart pattern. You know, every time you look at a head and shoulders pattern or an Elliott wave, you are making a judgment, a visual judgment. But you're not actually processing numerical values in a calculator. You know, what you're doing is you're looking at this and you're saying, that appears to be a head and shoulders pattern, and from experience, when the pattern completes, this will happen. So perhaps I want to use this as a signal in order to bias my trading decisions, etc. Chart Trader Pro is designed to tie all of this in together. And so if I want to put limit orders out there, I can check on the auto send mode again, right? And I want to sell at limit, and wherever I click, it's going to put these orders. Now, what I can do here, this is 189 shares. Watch this. I can tier this. Right? So 25, right? When I click this right here, that put a limit order to sell 25 shares, and I can tier this. Look what I just did there in 4 clicks. I put 4 limit orders out on my position. Each one is to sell 25 shares of that $189 long position at different price levels. And I visually eyed this up, and you can base this on anything. This can be based on Fibonacci levels. It can be based on pivot points, on technical analysis, a Bollinger Band or a Keltner channel, anything you can imagine. Right? And I want to uncheck auto send because I want to drag this up so I can demonstrate this a little better. These 4 orders are working, right? And I'm long 189 shares, right? So I'd probably want one more at 89 shares, right? Because I did it in quarters, right? I want to auto send one more limit order, and this is, say, the final one. I've got 5 orders out here, and they show up. If I go over to order book and I look at my working orders, here's all my ABT orders. Remember, I had that stop for 189, and I got my 4 quarters and my 89. Right? Well, in Chart Trader Pro, all I did was I visually eyed it up, and I dropped those orders down like that. Right? And you can do whatever you want. Let's see. Always make sure you're checking the state out, because if I click again, even to drag the chart, that's going to send an order out. Right? But that's how the system was designed. It's kind of a trade-off between giving you rapid ability to set these orders out versus being stateful, right? So just make sure that you're managing this. But if you get the knack of this, and it's pretty easy actually to use. I should be able to just change this, right? So yeah, I can kind of put these orders at wherever I want. And another strategy could be, see how this position, it kind of lost some money, right? It got long at 76 cents. And now it's down to 63. And again, remember, this is really just for demonstration purposes. I can drop this order down to halfway between the bar. And what that's doing is it's kind of like a compromise loss, right? It says, well, I really don't want this position to run away on me. But if this position is going down, it might bump back up to that price before it continues going down. That happens a lot just based off the volatility of the bars. So I'm looking at 5-minute bars right now. And this order might fire if this bar comes back up, or the next bar has a high value which comes up to that price. So I can kind of change these orders, and the order doesn't matter. I can go past this order, right? So I'll put this one down there, and that one is probably going to hit, right? But it's as simple as that. You can really just adjust and move these, and these will adjust in your order book accordingly. Now, one thing that you want to be careful of is that these positions are based on quantities, right? So just be careful about managing the quantity. If one of these fills, see how I have the stop order about for 189 shares? if this 25 order shares, I'm going to want to change the quantity of this order, right? And so, that's pretty easy to do, but just keep that in mind. When we designed the system, we designed it to be able to manage percentage-based orders, and this is actually something that we're going to expand on in the next set of builds. The system is designed to work on percentage-based orders. What that means is, let's say in Wizard Lab, if I have a stop order, you see this position parameter right here of 100%. That percentage is independent of the actual quantity of the position. And this is really important, and we try to educate people on this, and we've talked with a lot of people over time about how important this concept is. And some people get it immediately, other people, they don't really see the merit of it. But this is really important. If you are tiering positions with orders, it's very important to be able to manage these based on semantic percentages, right? So my intention on this stop order, my intention is really not to sell 189 shares. My intention is to get out, right? So instead of saying 189 shares, it would be much better in order to say get out of all of the position. And how you say that is with 100% of the position. And so, okay, so here's a question about the trailing stops. Yeah, that's another improvement that we're working on in the next set of builds. You notice that I've got stop orders out here on the Chart Trader Pro. We've got that in Wizard Lab, right? But some of these chart improvements are going to be kind of like visual dynamic management of the trailing stops, right? So that's another feature that we're working on in the next set of builds. But what I hope you see is the power of this organization, right? Because especially we have an order entry project that we're going to start working on. And that actually expands on a lot of the ability of this order management tied in with the order book and the portfolio. And again, this is another thing that we kind of started in on, but it became very important for us to build these scanning systems recently. Right, so we had to kind of like change directions. So we've got about 2 projects that we started, and we kind of had to put them on hold, for some things that were of high business value, basically. But what you can do with this Chart Trader Pro is quite simply using a visual system, manage your orders using very simple drag and drop techniques. Those drag and drop gestures, which this is really about gestures. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that makes the iPhone so popular. They really have extremely great UI, user interface, the gestures that you do in order to interact with the device. That's what we're going for here on the Chart Trader Pro. And so it's very powerful what you can do with it, especially combined with the settings that kind of govern your macro level risk. Right, so since I started talking about, I want to tell you all about the new and exciting features that we're working on. So as you know, we have some more enhancements, to the order management system. Some upgrades such as being able to bracket orders and tie orders together, etc. We also have kind of pairs functionality slated for this as well, where we kind of tie positions together with respect to pairs. It kind of is going to make pairs trading a lot easier to work with instead of having to manage 2 positions. It kind of ties them in together. Everything that you see inside of Wizard Lab, including the way that you work with drag and drop and including technical analysis, is planned to be tied right into the Chart Trader Pro with respect to the studies. Right now, what you can do is you can add studies, just like you can on TOS. You can kind of go in, you can say, okay, I want to see MACD. So you have to go in, you have to select MACD. We kind of find that to be a little bit, we think we can make that easier, is what we think, right? So for example, one of the builds that we're working on actually lets you take out MACD right from the technical analysis. And as you're working with it, this gets tied in with the chart, and it kind of sets it up, and it kind of makes everything seamless, right? So here's the parameters of MACD, and that would kind of change with the chart. That's something that we're working on, complete seamless integration of the Wizard Lab rule building into the chart. That's something that we're pretty excited about. Another project that we're working on, obviously, is the order entry and all of those other things that I had discussed. But in the next build, we're working on a suite of scanning tools. And the way this works is this is going to be a completely new set of scanning tabs. But the way that you can look at it is by going into Trade Vision. We kind of have this advancers decliners. Right? And this is extremely useful, relevant information because it tells you the biggest gainers, the biggest decliners on the day. And this is really great because you can get a lot of trading ideas out of that. Especially a lot of these stocks I'm less familiar with personally. So let's see, MWA, that's Mueller Water. Right? So here's something which the price is, it's been around the $2.50 level, and all of a sudden it's got a huge up move on the day. So this might be a trading idea, which is could be a very profitable idea, especially at the beginning of the day. I mean, if you probably could have caught this move at $2.67. And then and rode this up, and especially if you were leveraged in on a lot of shares, percentage-wise, that could be a nice play, etc. But the main idea is that what the Trade Vision does, and I just looked at Trade Optics for a second. Trade Optics gives you your scanning signals real time. So if you don't want to robotically trade the strategies that you can build in Wizard Lab, you can deploy those to Trade Optics, and it gives you a running queue so that you can see all of the signals as they come in. You could elect to trade them manually. But we're enhancing basically Trade Vision, and we're putting this on the next level. And so this advancers decliners, there's some logic behind this, and this logic, it filters out some stocks and securities that are deemed to be irrelevant. And we look at things such as average volume. If let's say a pink sheet stock doesn't trade very often, it doesn't get included in these advancers decliner lists. That's because we've found over time that you get a lot of kind of irrelevant movement. If a penny stock is trading for 1 cent and someone buys it for 2 cents, that's a 100% gain. That's not really relevant. But something like ESPGY, which even though it's the price is $2.45, right? It's not a whole lot. At least there's something significant happening. This is a little bit less interesting. The average volume is still a bit low, but it meets our requirements. There was apparently a gap on this stock, which is relevant, right? So it shows up in the list of rules. But the idea is we are expanding the system so that you can specify yourself what you want to see as scanning criterion. And this scanning criterion, it introduces fundamentals. Right, so we have fundamentals being included. Those fundamental values are also available in Wizard Lab. So we have the suite of fundamentals you can perform scans on. Technical analysis, anything that you can basically, all of these technical analysis studies, right, that are available, we are building into the system so that you can perform scans based on large sets of symbols, and you can set up the criterion using a system of simple checkboxes so that you can, and sliders actually. Sliders are a very important way to set this up so that you can specify how you want these symbol sets to be returned. Right? And then those symbol sets are used throughout the various contexts of Prodigio. Right? So for example, we use symbol lists to do a couple things. The most basic use case is to see a quotes panel. Right? And so you have these different symbol lists, and however you have these set up, these give you your quotes panels, etc. We're also making this a lot more flexible. We're building on there's actually a very in-depth project, but you can actually add custom columns that perform custom calculations. So the same things that you can do in Wizard Lab and the Rule Builder, you're going to be able to add this into, say, the quotes panel and get the actual values out of those. So that's pretty cool. Anything you can use a symbol list for, such as the quotes panel, a Wizard Lab back test, or a Wizard Lab RTS deployment into Trade Optics, or RTS trading. This is what you will be able to do with the results of these scans. And so this opens up the system to a whole new spectrum of usability, because all of the things that you can do currently, you can now automate this to another degree of potential possibilities. So there's a lot of things coming in this next build. We're kind of up to our ears in work, so we're very busy over here. But with that said, I think it's time for us to go back to work. I hope that I've given you some insight on the power of the system and the way that you can really leverage this, especially with the Chart Trader Pro, managing orders. Oh, by the way, those orders that I put all out there, I can kind of cancel these out from my order entry book, and those orders are gone. So you can set these up however you want to set these up. And I think that was on ABT, right? So that's clean now. Actually, let me put in one more. You can do this from the chart as well, as kind of a final note. You can right-click and cancel that order from the chart as well. And then that'll come out. Looks like that order didn't cancel yet. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so now it's gone. But that's it. You know, that's my presentation on Chart Trader Pro, what it can do currently, the idea, the concept, and what you can expect from us. We have Forex actually on this build. We do have Forex on this build. I have to talk with the guys about the trading, but we finally have the Forex data on this build. So you know, all of these things, they are not being falling on deaf ears. We're actively working on those, especially with the futures, on the Forex, etc. I got an email in from one of you guys a couple days ago asking for another feature. That's something that, yeah, I'm personally working on that myself. But there's a lot going on. So understand the system, what it's capable of doing, the concept, and what we're working on. And you've got something very powerful available to you for really, there's no cost for the platform other than the commission and the order flow. And that's it. And I hope you guys have a great week. I'm going to sign off by saying I'll see you guys again next week. As always, it's a pleasure to talk with you guys. My name is Brian Wagner. I'm the Chief Architect of Prodigio RTS, and I've got a lot to do, so I'm going to get back to work. As always, great trading, everybody, and take care.